We will start our the special meeting for October, 23rd, at 5:30 exactly. City Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Doby.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda. Councilmember Hasselbrink. Here. Councilmember Hibbert.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
All right, and now we will go into, now I will hand it over to City Attorney, Mr. Dowd.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will now adjourn into closed session to discuss items 3A through 3E as listed on this evening's agenda.
No, I can do it. I can do it. We're going to go ahead and reconvene, and my city attorney would give me a report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The City Council has returned from closed session with no reportable action taken.
All right, perfect. Okay, so now we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Councilmember Murphy that will be leading us in our pledge.
All right, if everyone will place their right hand over their heart, and we'll begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and if you would remain standing, I will give our invocation. Oh Lord, it's been rough. It's been a rough season, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for our first responders. I'm grateful for those in positions of leadership that choose to lead with a servant's heart. I thank you that is what would rule in this room this evening, that we might be small, but we can start here with exhibiting how to be true civil servants, how to make decisions that benefit all of our residents and our businesses and all of those that depend on us to lead with a servant's mindset, to use wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and discernment, that we would do nothing for selfish gain or ambition, but everything for the benefit of those that have put us in a position to make the most excellent choices that we have available. I thank you, and I pray over our police, our fire, all of those, our military, that you see that you would just comfort those that need comfort this evening, and I ask that you would give peace to those that need peace in their hearts. And I thank you in advance for the good things that we will do in this sensational city of Los Alamitos. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we got some presentations. So we have a Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District presentation, but we're going to move that to the end because we might have some questions or some comments or whatever the case may be, and we want to allow for that. Okay, so if as many of my colleagues as can, because my mayor pro tem might not make it down this time, but he'll be there in spirit, right? He'll nod really hard for us, okay. So if everybody else would like to join me down front, we'll get these presentations going.
I'd like a ruling.
Choose not to do it? Okay, can I go to, what's my next presentation? Can I move to the next presentation? What's my next? Whatever. So listen, I don't typically read these things because Trini got a piece of my heart. I can't even tell y'all. I've been running with her since Parks and Recs, and she is the most spectacular woman that I have ever had the privilege of serving with. But somebody wrote some good stuff on here, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Trini began her career in public service in 1988 with the City of Long Beach Gas and Water Department. She spent nearly 2 decades with the department providing secretarial support and executive level assistance. Expect nothing less. In 2006, Trini answered an advertisement in a local newspaper for the City of Los Alamitos Recreation and Community Services Department Secretary, where she has served for over 17 years. Oh my goodness. A core employee in the department, Trini has provided secretarial and program assistance, including overseeing front desk and customer service operations, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Commission support, purchasing and invoicing oversight, and records maintenance. Trini has played an integral role in service and assistance to the Los Al Senior Club, going beyond the call of duty with her creativity and heart for service to the organization. She is beloved by all she encounters, and she spreads love everywhere she goes. And Trini met the love of her life at the Long Beach Gas and Oil Department. Dan, where'd Dan go? Oh, thank you for not following him. I guess so. Well, these beautiful lovebirds have been married for 31 years. They have a 36-year-old son, Andrew, who married his high school sweetheart, Melissa. They've been married for 10 years. And then Trini is blessed with 3 grandchildren. She's got Grace and Maverick and Mason, and she has 2 amazing, lovely daughters, and they really are. I met them. They came to the women's conference, and oh my gosh, they just sweet as she is. But they are Karina and Cheyenne. And Trina is blessed to have the sweetest, most humble parents, Frank and Christina, who currently reside in Bloomington, California. Her positivity, encouraging nature, and heart for service have elevated the city of Los Alamitos the duration of her years worked. She will be missed is an understatement. And we wish her all the best as she moves on to her next act in life. Come on down. If you love me, you stay. I love you. Pictures, man, pictures. Did you want to say anything, Ms. Trina?
It's been an amazing pleasure being here with the city of Los Alamitos. I'm truly going to miss my family, and I wish you the very, very best. Love you all.
What, she gonna zoom in? She gonna zoom in? I don't think that's the way that works, Miss Shelley. All right. This is fine. This is all fine. It's all fine. I'm fine. This is fine. Anyways, what else you got? All right, next we have a presentation of a certificate to Miss Debbie Jacobs, the owner of Flags with a Flair, in recognition of being featured in the Mayor's Business Spotlight. Now, the Mayor's Business Spotlight is a free program. You can reach out to our wonderful city, I think it's Irving. Is Irving here? Or not Irving? Okay, well, between Irving and Alicia, he said, talk to my assistant, Miss Alicia. But we come out to your place of business. We take some footage of whatever it is that you do at your business. We ask some questions. We tailor the questions, but we really just want to bring some emphasis to the different businesses, big, small, intermediary, within these borders to support our businesses. I have a heart for our businesses. So if I could get Miss Debbie to come on down. Come on down. So a little bit about her. She is located in the Arbor Village between Sausalito and Catalina on Los Al Boulevard. Flags with a Flair is a converted house with a porch and beautiful gardens. Her whole backyard is an amazing garden where if you ask nicely, she might let you come and hang out and she'll make you a cup of coffee or tea. The bathroom was even turned into a retail space. Flags with a Flair is a perfect place to get home, seasonal, and garden decor. They also have clothing, jewelry, and of course, flags. Flags with a Flair is a unique store and has something for everyone. So I would like to present this to you on behalf of myself and our council in the city of Los Alamitos. Thank you for being one of our amazing small businesses. We're so honored that you choose to be here.
Thank you.
And then I got something else for you, and then we'll take pictures.
Am I leaving?
No, don't leave.
okay.
Don't leave. Don't walk away yet. This is for you. to show you. Alrighty, and then we have, oh, would you like to say anything?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Tanya. It was fun. I'm not in the spotlight kind of person, so being on the spotlight with you was not bad. And thank you for Los Alamitos just for letting me have a nice business here. It's a fun city, and I enjoy it.
Thank you, thank you. Did you get your picture? Did she run off with your picture? You got your picture? Okay. Alrighty, now, we have a little video, right? Are we playing the video? We're not playing the video. Hmm? But there's the video, right? Okay. Little preview. The rest of it will be on YouTube, and you can check it out. That's a kitchen. Absolutely. All right, next we have a presentation of a commendation to the LACC Code Enforcement staff in recognition of Code Enforcement Appreciation Month. Now, I'm assuming that because the chief is standing, that you want to come and do it? No, you just standing? Oh, you're waiting for Ron? Okay. Ron want to do it? You look way more comfortable. I knew it wasn't you. All right, so can I get Javier Marquez, and then my other new friend. I left my sticker up, but you are my new friend. Come on down, both of my new code enforcement people. Come say his name on the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. It's going to be Osvaldo Duarte. He's our new part-time code enforcement officer. Want to welcome him. And congratulations. We're very selective on who we pick, so you know that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Please stand wherever you would like. The floor is yours. Our code enforcement officers have challenging and demanding roles and often do not receive recognition for the job they do in improving quality of life for residents and businesses of local communities. The role of many code enforcement officers has expanded in recent years, with jurisdictions increasingly relying on the expertise and training. Code enforcement officers are dedicated, highly qualified, and highly trained professionals who share the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing communities, and ensuring safety while preserving property values. Please join us in recognizing the month of October as Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Month. We call upon our residents and business community to join in recognizing and expressing their appreciation for the dedication and service provided by the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers. So you come. There you go. There y'all go. Make sure to get a picture.
Thank you all.
All righty. My colleagues take their seats. We're all going to take our seats. And somebody needs to bring the podium.
Don't tempt me, I'll call you out on it. Was that a challenge? Oh, we take everything literally. Everything literally.
Everybody be running out of here.
Oi. Okay.
Right. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of the council this evening. And I'm going to apologize in advance. Usually when I start talking, people get a little bit itchy and squirmy. So I'm talking about bugs. So just a little bit about the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. We are an independent special district. We cover all of Orange County. We're one of two special districts that cover all of Orange County. We also have the largest board in Orange County and the second largest in the state, with 35 boards of trustees, one for each city and one county at large. So I always start off with what is a vector, because not everybody knows what a vector is. There's many definitions, but the Board of Trustees for us, our governing board, has defined a vector as certain insects that we control for. But generally, a vector is any insect that can bite or transmit disease to any other person or thing. So that is a really broad spectrum. But for us, it's mosquitoes, red imported fire ants, roof rats, and filth flies, and then we do surveillance for ticks and fleas as well. So we provide a wide spectrum of services. Most people just hear about us when they have either disease or we're coming out to do any kind of mosquito control in their community, but we have a very comprehensive education program, including social media platforms, outreach events, presentations, literature, as well as a school education program. We also have one of the few full-service laboratories in the state, which means we do our own in-house testing for our vectors. So we can turn around results within one day. And we test mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, rodents, birds, as well as other animals like possums for diseases. We do control, our operations team controls for mosquitoes, red imported fire ants, rats, and filth flies. So I'm gonna talk about just a few vectors because we have 27 different mosquitoes in Orange County, but there's only a few that really impact the community in the urban areas. And so those are our Aedes mosquitoes. We clump the first 3 mosquitoes all together. If you wanna say a mosquito looks really nice and fancy, those are our pretty mosquitoes that we have. They're nice and striped. They're smaller than our native mosquitoes, and then we have our southern house mosquito, which is our Culex mosquito. So each mosquito has its own unique habitat and own unique biting habits. Our Aedes mosquitoes can transmit diseases such as Zika, dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya. This is the part where I usually say, California, we have no Zika, dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, but if you've been listening to the news, on Friday, LA County announced their first local dengue case. So I'm gonna change that and say, in Orange County, we have no Zika, dengue, yellow fever, and chikungunya. We do have West Nile virus that is endemic to our county, which means that we get cases every year. We find it in our mosquitoes, and then unfortunately, we get some human cases every year. This year, we do have a moderate West Nile virus season, which means we're seeing a lot more activity in our mosquitoes, and we are seeing more human cases. A majority of our work, especially in summer, is doing mosquito control. And a lot of the residents know us because they call us when they need service for their house and they're having problems. But a majority of our work is those public access areas that nobody really has purview to control over. So those are parks, flood channels, gutters, underground storm drains, and then we have our control that we do for unserviced swimming pools, and a lot of times that's a financial question. Aging homes, fixed incomes, it's a decision of, are you gonna keep the rent money coming, or are you gonna do your pool service? So in that case, we come out and we do treatment to make sure that they're not a public health issue, and then they can continue on with what they're doing. These are some of our large sources that people often don't think about. Wetlands and marshes. We have BMPs, which most cities have, and we call them big mosquito problems. That's our acronym for them, because if they're not maintained properly and hold water, they can be. Lots of nurseries, like I said, pools, city infrastructure. So as cities age, some of their infrastructure is aging as well, and uprooted trees can impact water flow, especially in North Orange County that we have a pretty flat. Once we get to South Orange County and we have more hilly areas, the water flows a little bit better. And then we have our small backyard sources. So our small backyard sources is where our little Aedes or ankle biter mosquitoes really thrive. They like small containers. They don't prefer the large areas like our storm drains or our flood channels. They like fountains and vases and flower pot saucers and toys and bromeliads and lucky bamboos. So whenever someone tells me they bought a lucky bamboo, I say it's not going to be your lucky day. You probably got some mosquitoes in there too. And just anything that can accumulate water in the backyard. We've seen them in tarps after rainfall. We've seen them in leaves that just are holding water, especially with this last summer that we've had intermittent rains and then hot weather following it. That's created a really high abundance of mosquitoes. We're seeing about 4 times our annual average of mosquitoes in the community. So residents are really feeling the pressure, and these mosquitoes do love to bite, and they like to bite multiple times. So for residents, what that impact means is they're seeing increased biting pressure, and their quality of life is going down, because where 5 years ago, you can go out to your backyard. You didn't have to worry about repellent. You just go out and enjoy the nice summer weather. Now, there's a process. Like when I go out with my kids, you got to put the repellent on, and then we got to get all ready, and then we go out to enjoy the backyard. And so, people are impacted, and we realize that. What residents will see sometimes with Aedes mosquitoes, typically those are nuisance spiders. They're not transmitting disease right now in Orange County. So we try to help them in finding the source and reducing that number of mosquitoes within their community. With Culex mosquitoes, they are transmitting disease. So a lot of times people will see signage for West Nile virus, especially if we find it in your community. We'll typically notify the city as well. And if we increase that, what we're doing in the community, like increasing our inspections or doing any adult mosquito control, we'll work with city staff so that they're aware. But we're doing a lot of this, and the notifications will go out so that residents are aware of what they can do to be part of the solution. One of the things I like to talk about, these are the common questions we got prior to Friday, and then I had a whole new host of questions today that I answered on the phone. So a lot of people are wondering, what about SIT? And if you haven't heard of SIT, that's sterile insect technique. It's been utilized in agriculture for over 20 years. Los Alamitos Air Force Base is the headquarters for one of the largest SIT programs in the country, which is the sterile medfly program. It's new to mosquitoes, though, and so we're looking at that technology and how it can be adapted to sterilize the male mosquitoes, and basically what we're using is mosquitoes to fight mosquitoes. We send out sterile males to get friendly with our wild females. They make some eggs, and those eggs never hatch, so that brings down the population doing that. And it is a way that we can combat these Aedes mosquitoes because they are so challenging on how to control because they like those small sources. The other thing we always get is we either get, why are you spraying my neighborhood? I don't want the spray. And then recently, because of the Aedes mosquitoes, we get, how do I get you to come spray our neighborhood? And we always tell residents, spraying has a cost and benefit. And so we do it for disease control. We don't do it for nuisance control, because when we spray to kill the adult mosquitoes, we're looking to knock down the disease in the community so our residents don't get sick. And so for nuisance control, we really have to find those sources and eliminate those sources, and that's how we want to work with our residents on those. We have a lot of tools available. I know the city's really active on sharing those tools on their website and through social media, but we have DIY pages on how people can DIY mosquito-free their backyards, as well as advocate kits. So if people want to go out to their neighborhood and flyer their neighborhood to let their neighbors know that they're having mosquito issues, we have all those tools available. And our inspectors are always happy to work with the residents on an individual basis or a community basis, whether it's a presentation or one-on-one to find those solutions. I want to pivot a little bit because even though we're hot right now, as we get colder, we're going to have a whole new vector to deal with, which is our rodents or our rats. So heavy rain also means lots of vegetation, which means a really good place for rats to live. With dense vegetation, they feel safe, they can hide in there. But what will happen is the weather cools, they're gonna look for a nice warm place to stay in the winter. And just like we turn on the heaters in our house, they're gonna try to find a way into our homes to enjoy our nice rent-free heaters. So what we do is do a lot of education for residents on how you can make your home less attractive to rodents. And that's reducing the food supply, pet food outside, birdseed. Birdseed's probably the one big area that we see for rodents. And everybody started their COVID garden. I am guilty as well. Vegetables, if they're not picked in time, they will be some good appetizers for your rodents and possums and raccoons. And then cutting back all that overgrown vegetation that we saw with the winter and summer rains. So that's the messaging we'll start veering into as we head into winter season. One of the issues with not just rodents, but feral cats and possums out in the community is they can carry fleas, and those fleas can have flea-borne typhus. And so we have seen an increase in flea-borne typhus across all of Orange County. And flea-borne typhus, while can range from just mild symptoms to severe symptoms, just depends on the individual. Typically, it's fever, rash, but we've seen people hospitalized up to 20 days with flea-borne typhus. Typically, most of our cases in Orange County are associated with some contact with cats, either feeding wild cats or someone adopts kittens they found, or they've had contact with possums in their backyards. So that's part of the education on keeping your pets on flea control medicine, and as well as not interacting with those wild animals because they are wild animals. They may look cute, but they're still wild. So these are some of the notifications you'll see for flea-borne typhus if your community has them. Most of that is our education. Our inspectors and our lab staff do a site assessment. If they find there's increased risk of flea-borne typhus, they'll typically work with the property owner. Most of our cases are in really dense areas, multi-family homes, mobile home parks, apartment complexes where we see a lot of people congregating together. And that's where we get our case clusters, which means we're gonna have a lot more than one case, human case of that. So that's our education and our inspection work for that. And so my takeaway message, and city already does a lot of this, but please share the message with your residents because you have a broader scope than we do. You work with your constituents on a more daily basis than we do, and we have to cover all of Orange County. And then make sure that residents are being aware that you can be part of the solution. So it's not just a vector control issue, it's a community issue, and so we all need to be aware of what we can do, especially tipping and tossing and wearing our repellent and taking action so we can protect our community from these vector-borne diseases. And I went through it rather quickly because I assume you guys have some questions. But if not, it's okay. Tanya knows where to find me.
Well, thank you for the beautiful presentation. The one thing, I just had a meeting Thursday, so I remember that there's an extra step. I don't know what initial you've given it, but the tip and toss is now where you have to look for the little black specks and make sure that they're not adhering to wherever you found them. Right?
Yeah, so our take action is scrub containers, wear repellent, tell your neighbors. So it's a 3-step take action because the Aedes mosquitoes can overwinter. They can be in a dry state for up to 2 years on a container, and it fills up with water, and then they can become mosquitoes and finish their life cycle. So that's what makes one of their aspects very challenging. They've evolved to win.
Mm-hmm. Like gremlins. Okay. Are there any questions from the audience? Because I want to make sure that we get any questions that might be in the audience. No? Okay. Any questions or comments from up here?
I'd just like to say thank you. I was the one that requested that somebody from OC Vector come and speak. I've had a lot of neighbors reaching out to me saying that they're having a lot of issues with mosquitoes or mice or rats in the Highlands, Parkwood off Lamson Avenue, or even on the north side of town in what we call Apartment Row. And we had Inspector John Hill come out. We met at a resident's house who's here today, met at a resident's house, and he answered a lot of questions for us, and the neighbors really came out. We have some neighbors, the guys are using it like a game. I caught 30 mice last week. I caught 40 mice. I mean, it's disgusting, but it really is an issue. So thank you for coming out and presenting, and I'll definitely thank you for this presentation because I'll be passing it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Any resources you have, we're happy to work with you guys to customize them.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. All right, Panther Crow. Next is oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. And I have got a speaker card. Sally Rodman.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and city staff. Excuse me. Although the solar project is on the base, 1,000 solar panels on 50 acres of upturned soil is causing rat and mice problems all across the city. I know this is not technically your purview, it's the Joint Forces Training Bases land, but it has become a community problem. As she was saying, as Councilwoman Hibbard was saying, It's all over our neighborhood. I've got 5 bait boxes. I had to redo the insulation in my attic for $7,000 because they ate their way into what I thought was a rat-proofed house. And so we're paying huge remediation costs to keep them out. I also wanted to say, as Lori said, that the disease factor, I'm also worried about that because the mice and the rats have the mice and the rats have ticks, mites, and fleas on them, which can carry many diseases, as she mentioned, including Lyme disease. We had the meeting, as Councilwoman Hibbard said, last week at my, I think it was like late September, at my house. Major Vu, Temporary Commander Waddell, and Mr. John Hill from Vector Control met with myself and some of my neighbors. And we talked about, maybe getting some assistance from the base. So I'm here to ask you help us facilitate that solution because I haven't heard from any of them anymore. And it's really a problem when they're running through our garages and our attics and even our houses. And so we're doing all we can, but this all costs us money. And so if the base could help out a little bit, I know they sell their electricity from the solar panels to San Diego. Maybe they could put a little bit of a surcharge on there for us to help us out. I don't know what the solution is myself. I'm just asking you to help us facilitate a solution because it's across the community problem, and it's into Seal Beach, it's into Garden Grove, it's into Cypress. Everybody's, complaining about it. So any help you can give us, I appreciate, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Next, we've got updates from the mayor. I have an update about Good Evening Los Alamitos. It is scheduled for Thursday, November 16th. It'll be at the Community Center from 6 to 7. Please contact Development Services for more information. And next, we have updates from city staff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I'd like to have the chief give a brief update as to where exactly we're staying with the K-9 program at this point.
Hello, sir. Thank you. City Council, allow me to provide you an update. Let me start out by saying thank you first to Mr. Kenny Brandyberry for providing the donation that was able to move our K-9 program forward. Kenny, if you're watching, thank you. He was gracious out of his heart that donated the money to let us start this, and then the Los Al Community Foundation has now taken up the cause and is raising funds for the remaining costs of the K-9 program, so we appreciate that. We currently have the policy in place. We are working on the procedures. The vehicle has been received and is being outfitted. Everything is done except the front push bar on the vehicle, so it should be here before we move on to select the actual K-9. We have made the selection of who will be the K-9 handler, and congratulations to Miss Officer Mark Navarro, who will be the K-9 handler for the Los Alamitos Police Department. The selection of the K-9 itself will be made on November 10th. And then shortly thereafter, a couple days later, the K-9 Academy will be starting on the 13th. We anticipate the handler and the dog graduating from the academy before the end of the year. So hopefully, worst case scenario, by the first of the year, we should have Officer Navarro and Elvis out in patrol.
Thank you, Chief. And again, I do want to say that the neck break speed at which you were putting this all together, I do appreciate. Next, I'd like to have our finance director give a quick update about the treasury report that's on your agenda for tonight. In a very topsy-turvy world when it comes to investments, obviously interest rates jumping all over the place, I've been very impressed as I've watched this over the past few quarters, actually the ability of our staff to continue to make gains where obviously we're seeing other large institutions, CalPERS namely, failing to do so. So with that, Craig?
Yes, thank you, Chad. Yes, I'd like to report that the interest earned and recorded for the city's investments was $181,000. That's for the quarter ending September 30th. And that equates to it being on track to exceed 700,000 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. And that's, of course, given current market values and consideration for any other adjustments. Thank you.
And with that, we actually will be back to the Budget Standing Committee here in the near future to discuss potentially extending the event horizon, otherwise known as the data maturity for some of our investments. Craig, in consultation with some of our financial advisors, but also just reading the tea leaves in the market, believes that there is areas where we may be able to gain a little bit extra by pushing out those investment timelines a little bit. So again, that'll be something that will be brought to the Budget Standing Committee and then also to the council as a whole. And with that, that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, next we'll move on to the warrants. Notwithstanding any questions, I'll take a motion in a second.
I have a couple questions. Find my notes. There were a couple expenditures categorized to the city council's budget for gift cards and wellness program. I just want to confirm that was for city council.
It was charged to the city council account, but not for the city council, I guess, is the way to answer that one.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about how that's linked to the city council's budget?
Of course. So within the city council's budget, there's things that have been traditionally charged there, namely memberships or giveaways that are done at public events. That's historically where it has fallen. One of the things that we will be doing through the next budget cycle is looking through and seeing what exactly those things that have been historically charged to the city council account and whether or not it makes sense for them to be someplace else. As I take a step back and I do a 50,000-foot view, the remedy would be to transfer those funds to another account. And so the overall budget would go down as the expense would go down as well. So yes, that is something that we can look to actually try to move things into where it might be easier to understand as to why exactly the account is being charged. And I will say this, and Craig, please correct me if I'm wrong, but typically when we have things that have tracked year over year, the reason for leaving them in a singular spot is to be able to track increases. Once you move them to a new account, it's essentially you're starting over. And so there's benefit to that, but it has to be done in a very methodical way.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions. In regards to the George Hills Company, there aren't any details or description. Would you be able to provide just a brief description of what services are provided by George Hills Company?
Of course. George Hill is actually our third-party claims adjuster. I'm going to ask, actually, Chelsea Wilson. I can't speak today, I'm sorry. Chelsea Wilson, our admin services manager, if she can answer that question for me.
Well, easy enough. It's our liability claims adjuster.
Okay. In respect to HDL Corn and Cone, is this a new auditing firm?
No, HDL is the firm that actually provides our business license services, and then they also provide some internal tracking in addition to that with regards to sales tax production.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, Councilwoman, they also do track our property tax as well, and they actually do provide, along with Beacon Economics, the forecast that we use in order to do our forward-look budgeting.
Okay, is that where the description for audit services transaction for the $1,288.45?
I will have to ask Craig that specifically, but I do believe, and we can research that particular or that specific line item for them, but one of the services that HDL does provide is that they will go through and audit our business licenses in order to ensure that our business license match up with the sales number that the state has to ensure that that all of our businesses have both a sales number and a business license at the same time, and that they both match.
And that would be for that one, but it would just need more clarity with Mr. Kohler.
That's correct. We can research that, but I believe it's just for monthly monitoring for the sales tax information.
Okay. You said monthly, correct?
Yes.
I noticed that we have Orkin Services of California, which provides like a monthly maintenance fee. And then we also have Newport Exterminating. Is there a reason why we have like two companies that provide similar services?
I can take that question, council member.
Thank you.
Yes, Orkin is the exterminating services that we have here on site on the Civic Center. Their more specialty is interior pest control, while the Newport one is our exterior one. So they handle most of the gopher abatement at our city parks.
Gopher abatement, okay. Okay. In respect to Pacific Secured Equities, what services are performed or provided?
Oh, this is the name change, but it's basically admin claim fees for self-insurance.
For, I'm sorry, what type of insurance?
Self-insurance.
Self-insurance.
Workman's comp.
Workers' comp.
Yes.
Thank you. In regards to Laura Cole, what type of advisory services does she perform or provide in the amount of $3,000?
So Cole Pro Media provides multiple services, not only for the public information assistance for the city, but as well as the PD. She also helps us out with our social media accounts as well.
Thank you. I saw that on the warrants, MV Cheng Associates, and the description states MV Cheng Associates. Is there a reason why we can't put like a description instead of just reiterating the name of the vendor?
We can definitely clean that up.
Okay.
Sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. I noticed that there is a $700 fee, and I assume it's for myself, for Murphy LOCC member city. What was that for?
Can I ask what page you were on, Councilwoman?
Sure. Page 16 or page 27 of the agenda packet.
I believe that acronym means League of California Cities, but I would have to allow staff to go back and research it in order to know exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate just to know what I'm being charged for.
I believe that's what it is, but we'll research it for you.
Okay. So that would either be like a membership fee or conference fee or?
Most likely conference fee.
Okay. I'd appreciate that because I know that I didn't attend the LOCC conference this year.
Okay.
And that is it. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'll move the warrants.
Second. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call, Mayor Doby,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda,
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Councilmember Hibbard,
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull?
I would like to pull item number 11B, the Treasurer's Quarterly Investment Report.
Okay.
And I'd like to pull A, D, and E.
All right. You got all that, Ms. Wendy? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so you just have questions? You would like a staff report? What would y'all like for those pulled items?
For 11A, the minutes, it's on page 6. There's just a couple of mistakes that I'd like to get corrected. It's on page 46 of the agenda. It's the roll call vote for last month's agenda item 12A. And the minutes just show, we did a roll call vote. The minutes show that I voted abstain when I voted no. So I just want to see if we can get that corrected. I believe another council member voted abstain. So if we can motion to, move to amend those minutes just to get that roll call vote fixed.
Yes, we can clean that up.
Thank you.
We had item 11B.
Okay, in regards to 11B, either Mr. Simmons or Mr. Kohler can assist me with a few of the questions I have. I appreciate that you provided the pooled investment portfolio holdings, and it had the coupon date, maturity date, purchase date, and so forth. Is there a reason why there wasn't a column that provided the purchase price value or initial acquisition amount of the fixed assets?
That is the cost. So
The amortization cost is the purchase value cost of the fixed assets?
Oh, I see what you're asking. No, we don't usually provide that, but I can add that column if you like.
Yeah, I would appreciate,
Sure,
including that as well.
no problem.
Also, what approach or process did you use to calculate the amortized cost for each of the investments?
The amortized cost?
Correct.
Well, that's the full value of the investment.
Yeah, but did you
So-
use a formula? Because since you didn't provide the purchase price or the initial to get to the amortized cost.
Right, so a lot of them are purchased at discounts, which you wouldn't see. So when I add the initial cost, the additional information, you'll be able to see the difference.
And how you came to the
Amortized,
total
yeah.
amortized
Yes.
cost? Okay. All right, yeah, I definitely would like to see that, please.
No problem.
Do you see that there's any impairment losses for any of the investments for the fixed assets?
For fixed assets?
Yeah, for all, these are fixed assets, correct?
They're investment holdings.
So none of them, so the interest rate isn't fixed?
Well, they are, well, let me say, answer that, yes. The majority of them are fixed rates. There's one that's on here that's variable.
Okay, so do you see any losses that may have impaired the investments or any of the assets?
No,
So there haven't been any losses for any of the investments?
no losses, no.
Okay. All right, and who selects the investments?
I have a list of authorized brokers that the city works with, and I'm presented information regarding the investments. And if it makes sense and the cash flow is in a position to do so, then I would make the investment based on that information.
Would I be able to get a copy of the list of brokers?
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kohler.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And that is all my questions. Thank you.
you're welcome.
The next item was item D.
Thank you. I wanted to pull this one. I had a few neighbors ask me why LaSalle PD is acquiring an armored vehicle, and I just was wondering if I can get a staff report on that for the neighbors that are watching from home.
Chief, I'm going to let you take this one because you won't let me drive it.
So the first thing we need to look at is it's not an asset or piece of equipment for LaSalle PD. Any type of equipment that is purchased by the UWASI grant, which is the Urban Area Security Initiative, it is a regional asset. So this is a piece of equipment that the UWASI grant buys for, they're purchased all over the country, and they're utilized for anti-terrorism training, education, equipment that the grant provides in the event that we had to respond to or recover from any act of terrorism. So this particular vehicle was submitted for because the only piece of armor we have on the western side of Orange County was purchased by Westminster, or the grant purchased, and it is housed in the city of Westminster back in 2009. So that is a very dated piece of equipment. There is only one piece of armor on the western side of Orange County. We have 2 active bases, one which is a closed base in the Seal Beach Naval Weapons Station, and another one is an open base with the Joint Forces Training Base. That is from a more of a regional aspect. One additional thing I should say is that the primary use of the vehicle would be for the West County SWAT team in the servants of high-risk search warrants or things such as any type of response to an act of terrorism or an active shooter that is affecting a vehicle is always done with 2 pieces of armor. We don't even have 2 pieces of armor here on the western side of Orange County. If you look at it from a more local perspective, being that we are the city that requested for the armor would be housed in the city of Los Alamitos. We would have first right of refusal for the piece of equipment should it be needed. It would be a quicker response time for any type of active shooter incident that would occur here in the city of Los Alamitos. And it is basically viewed as a rescue vehicle. If we ended up with any type of barricaded suspect, active shooter suspect, any type of school shooting, this piece of equipment could get into that environment and extract somebody out of there as safe as possible, because we have no other piece of equipment that would be able to do such a task. And the newest technology in this particular vehicle that we're going to attempt to acquire actually has a water monitor, can be purchased on top of the vehicle, that should the act of terrorism or the emergency situation we're responding to also involve any type of fire event that our OCFA battalion chief could explain to you. This vehicle would allow us to mitigate that while attempting to extract or address any type of threat that may be in that environment. Because up until this point, the technology has not been able to allow fire and police to address a situation at the same time, but we've had a reoccurrence across the country of events that have incorporated the two, what makes it extremely challenging for us. But the newest pieces of equipment, you can attach a water source to the vehicle, which would allow this vehicle to be able to mitigate the fire while attempting to address the threat from the safety of inside the vehicle. That's just the operational aspects of the vehicle. I think we can all think of various types of community engagement opportunities that this would be able to provide. These types of vehicles are used in parades. They're also used in community events, such as a collection of stuffed animals to be able to for donations. Those are just all the things that come off the top of my head. I'm sure if you give me a little while longer, I could probably think of a few more reasons or ways we could utilize the vehicle.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
And if that wasn't known by anyone in the city, because this is a grant piece of equipment, it is not costing the city of Los Alamitos anything to acquire this piece of equipment, which will run approximately $350,000.
Nice. Thank you.
And the final item for question is item E.
Thank you. I know in the Highlands in the last, I would say 4 to 6 weeks, we've had 2 instances where the concrete's been repaired. Thank you for coming out. We did have situations where it was a 1/2 inch or 2 inch. We had a neighbor, trip and fall. So I appreciate this one. I was wondering if you can help me break down the numbers to see. So this is for a 2-year contract for $200,000. So each year would be about $100,000 per year. About how many, or maybe how many feet of concrete are we currently replacing in-house? And would that be less than $100,000 a year, or is it more than $100,000 a year?
So I'm going to let Dr. Noda answer the question with regards to just that. But one of the, I think, key components of this contract is, while yes, it is a maintenance contract, is an identification method in order to identify throughout the city where exactly we are having problems, and then using the ability to scan all of the sidewalks, geolocate where the issues are, and then be able to track their repair over time. The part of the contract that I think that is incredibly valuable is that knowledge of knowing where exactly issues are so that they can be addressed in a timely manner. And then I'll have to defer to Dr. Noda for the actual concrete issue.
Councilmember Hibbard, just to clarify, this report and this contract is for shaving of concrete. It's not a removal of concrete or a fixing of concrete. So this one right here, like City Manager Simmons stated, is to do an assessment. So while they're out there doing assessment, they will identify concrete areas plus curbs that needs to be repaired, whether it's via concrete or full removal and replacement. Once that assessment's in, this contract will then will strategically go out there and ask them to shave. So anything within basically less than 2 inches, they will go out there and shave or grind down to make it safer. If we are looking at something that's above 2 inches, that's a complete removal, that's something that we'd have to work with the Public Works team to see if A, we can handle it in-house, or B, we have to contract out to a third-party vendor. Typically, the Public Works crew can only do replacement of concrete about 10 linear feet. Anything more, it's a little bit, difficult for them. And then also, every concrete assessment is different because they're not really skilled in determining ADA slope, right? So that's when we would go out to an outside vendor to abide by our ADA rules regarding slope and drainage issues. So again, typically, because we have a small crew, we're very, very, minimal in terms of how many linear feet they do replacement of concrete. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's not to where the city needs. And so, they're very skilled, they're very talented, but typically around 10 to 12 linear feet, we'll do that in-house, again, minus ADA slope, and then anything above that, we go out there and contract that out.
Thank you. Do we have an estimate about how many areas need to be shaved?
No, we don't. That's part of the contract is for them to do an assessment.
Thank you.
Okay, that sums up the questions. If you'd like to move the consent calendar, Mayor.
Okay. And then that's a motion and a second and a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor. Hey now. Can I get a motion and a second, then we can all in favor?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Well, all right. Next, we will move on to our discussion items, which are 12. So if I could get a staff report on item A.
Yes, ma'am. So this actually is a follow-up item to the projects of significance policy that the City Council adopted earlier this year. And essentially what it is the deployment of a new system. It's My Loss I'll Engage. And the idea behind this is essentially that we can create within our website an information portal where if, let's say that we wanted to do an information piece on the purchase or the deployment of the new armored vehicle, we could create a landing page within the website. People would then be able to sign up for informational updates about that particular item. We would also be able to push that information out through social media and then through other people's, through people who sign up their email address. This information would be publicly accessible to all. The reason that this is tied directly to the projects of significance is that the council had asked for a platform where we would be able to allow residents to know directly about large-scale projects that were going to happen within the city. And so by creating a one place for all of that information to reside, and then anytime that any new information is provided about that item, it is automatically pushed out to those people that have actually have already expressed interest about that project, falls in line with the policy of what the council already adopted. So this is just, I'll say it, a means to an end at the end of the day, in order to actually accomplish the goal of that policy that the council put in place. It also falls in line with a lot of the different technology upgrades that we're doing right now. Part of the efforts out of the city clerk's office has been to automate and streamline and to allow for people to access information quickly. And so this is, again, becomes a one-click email address, and then you are shipped every piece of information about a particular subject.
All right, are there any questions?
Will this be replacing our Friday email?
Will not be replacing it, no. So the information that we put into our emails, I think, is, again, there's a lot of different sections to it, which has a lot of varying different informations. The nice thing about this particular system is that it becomes specialized to, if I am only interested in this one thing, well, then I know that I can click and get the information directly. I do see some applications for it further on down the road, but we are going to test it before we try to see where exactly we might be able to deploy it.
Is it possible, and if it is, lovely, so I live near the base, and there's things that I'm sure that the neighbors that live near the base are concerned about, that maybe neighbors on the north side of town don't really care when the air show's in town or something like that. Is there a way to segment this so that we maybe notify per district versus the entire city?
That is one of the capabilities that we're currently exploring.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion in a second. Is it a receive and file? No, it says, I get a motion in a second. Do I not get a motion in a second?
Yeah, you're going to receive and file the report. You can
The
get a
whole
motion
thing,
in a
so
second.
wait until I'm done?
No, just the one item. You're
Okay.
right.
Then I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And then it's roll call?
All in favor?
All in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We'll move on to B. If I could get a staff report for the consideration of an accelerated warrant report policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is an item that we've worked in conjunction with the Budget Standing Committee on. The basis of this is that at any given council meeting, we will present the council with between 200 and 300 different warrant items. That is a significant amount of items. Obviously, it covers the entire breadth of what the city is spending money on during the last 30 days. Just as the questions that were asked tonight, in order to ensure that we're providing accurate information and not having to go back and research things after the fact, we want to make sure that we're able to provide that information in real time. And so the accelerated warrant policy would essentially be that the Monday prior to a council meeting, so normally information is posted 72 hours before a council meeting. This information will be provided to the council a week in advance of the council meeting, which would allow the council to look at the different warrants, highlight ones that they may have questions about, and submit those questions to the finance department and allow them to do the research and provide those answers back to the entire council in advance of the meeting on Monday. The value of that is obviously all of the information is provided up front. There really should be no questions at that point. That being said, I understand that the council sometimes asks questions of staff in order to gain further clarity for the public, and I think that's an important step. And so council members would still be able to ask those questions at the council meeting. In the event that a council member comes up with another question or something else that wasn't previously asked before the deadline, we would then roll that into the next council meeting and be able to provide that information then. So it really is an effort on behalf of staff to be as transparent as we possibly can while providing the correct information as quickly as we can.
Okay. Are there any questions on item 12B?
I have a quick question. Well, so as the warrants are presented now, it's more of a report, very limited description. As a new council member, sometimes I'm not familiar with that particular vendor or that particular service, especially if something comes up once a year that I haven't seen before. Will this warrant report have additional information? For example, the warrant request, the invoice, a copy of the check, everything that's involved in that particular expenditure?
No, I don't see it acting that way. It's simply from the standpoint, then we would be providing all of the background information on 300 different items that I think would be cumbersome for any of the council members. It would quickly turn your agenda packets into 900, 1,200 page documents, which I don't think any of you want at this moment. Our goal, though, being that if you receive these warrants on Monday and have a week to ask questions, that if we have to go back and research actual items, that we can be able to provide you the information that you need.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion in a second.
Make a motion.
I'll second it. Okay, roll call, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Let's move on to item C, a resolution to express support for actions to retain local control related to local zoning and housing issues. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As you're all aware, the state legislature has passed a number of items in the past couple of years, most notably SB 9 and SB 10, which essentially results in I'll call it an assault on single-family zoning. SB 9 allows for the division of a property and the construction of basically a multiplex where a single-family home had originally stood. This is something that this city council has fought. Many city councils have fought with no avail. A small group of cities actually banded together and made the argument in the California court that this is an overstepping by the state when it comes to applying laws to charter cities. And recently there has been some movement, at least at the judge's level, to ask questions that seem to think, or that seem to show that he is sympathetic to that argument that charter cities should have been exempted from having to implement SB 9. Again, this is the beginning of this issue, not the end of it. However, this item would be for the city council to adopt a resolution in support of charter cities being able to hold on to that local control and not being subject to the whims of housing laws that are passed by the state.
Okay. Well, are there any questions about item C?
I don't have a question, but homeowners in Parkwood, the Highlands, and Apartment Row are very supportive of this item, so thank you for bringing it to council.
All righty, so we'll take a motion in a second.
I'll move it.
All in favor? No, this is roll call. Why does it say roll call? Is roll call all in favor?
It is. That's my mistake. They should all say all in favor.
I'm gonna just say all in favor and you tell me if it's roll call.
Okay.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay. We will move on to item D, the Los Alamitos Community Foundation and City of Los Alamitos Memorandum of Understanding, Los Alamitos Senior Club and the City of Los Alamitos Agreement, and Los Alamitos Museum Insurance. That's a lot of Los Alamitos. Okay. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and actually you kind of hit the point of the fact that there are a lot of associations. These MOUs would actually govern the relationship between the city and the various organizations in terms of staff time, how exactly we interact with them, what exactly our responsibilities are to them. The larger picture, which I think is important to note, is that these are all organizations that currently operate out of city facilities. The Senior Club obviously operates out of our senior center. The museum operates out of the museum that's on Los Al Boulevard. And then our foundation meets here and then also participates largely at city events. The binding of all of these together and actually looking at them in terms of how exactly we can provide insurance to them to ensure that the city is not on the hook at the end of the day for lapses in insurance is the main driving issue for bringing this item forward to you tonight. In this case, the city would be taking on the insurance, would be paying for the insurance of these three entities, and would then be assured that there is obviously no, I'll call it a liability chink in our armor.
Okay. Are there any questions on item D?
I have a couple comments. So my comments are through the lens of liability and exposure. Does the foundation currently carry any sort of D&O insurance, liability insurance, any insurance policies?
Yes, I believe they do. Yes.
And what type of policies do they carry?
Typically, we have a standard that we apply across the board, and I'm sorry, the numbers are going to escape me if the city clerk or city attorney can assist me, but it does handle general liability, automotive, and I believe we also require there's a term that always escapes me. It's,
Yeah, I can help out. as well.
thank you, sir.
So part of this, part of the idea of bringing forward the MOU is to clarify what those obligations are. And then part of the discussion, of course, is considering whether the city is willing to help pay the cost of that insurance. But in the MOU before you tonight, it discusses the foundation's obligation to have commercial general liability insurance with a 1 million per occurrence limit. And then there's also workers' compensation insurance as is required by law. And then a requirement that the city itself be listed as an additional insured on those policies, so that if there were to be some accident and someone brought suit against the community foundation and the city would also be in a position to look to the insurance coverage of the foundation to help cover the cost of that claim.
And then we also have a separate policy for the fireworks sales that's facilitated through TNT that we pay for from the money raised strictly for the fireworks sales.
So is this item asking the city to pay for the community foundation's insurance policy, or what's this item asking for?
Well, two things. It's asking for approval of the MOUs, which will govern the relationships between the city and the various organizations, and then also to whether or not the city council will pay for the insurance of those 3 different entities going forward.
Are the 3 different entities 501c3s?
Yes.
They are also city established. That sets them apart from other nonprofits in the community because the city actually established all 3.
Thank you. It feels enmeshed, and maybe I'm not understanding how each entity is. So as a separate 501c3, usually carry D&O insurance. You know, it's a separate entity.
Mm-hmm.
So on this one, I'm having a hard time understanding why the city, through exposure, right? Exposure. So at a lot of our events, we serve booze. I'm all about serving booze. I like it. But if someone has one too many or just enough, trips, breaks their arm, and sues, do they sue the community foundation who has a policy, or the city who's paying for the foundation's policy?
So I will say that I'm not an attorney, but I will say that both entities most likely will be sued in that instance, and then anybody else who happens to be standing around or next to them will probably also be sued. The goal of the city actually taking on these insurance policies is one, to ensure uniformity across the board, that there isn't one entity that has a certain types of insurance versus what we would actually wish for them to have. The second being that there's a commonly, I don't know if I'll say commonly because definitely not here, but there have been issues in the past where certain entities have allowed their insurance to lapse and nobody knows that there's a problem until there is a situation in which you just described. And then when you go to look at the insurance, there actually isn't an insurance policy in place that creates that first, I'll call it security buffer, before it would reach the city's liability. And so by ensuring that this is all paid for up front, we're hoping to negate any of those type of situations on the back end.
Will the community foundation refund the city at all, or it's just a gesture of goodwill?
Well, I think it's a gesture of goodwill, but at the same time, the foundation itself, and I'll speak specifically about the foundation, its sole purpose is to generate money for the city. And so I'd say ultimately that money does find its way back into city coffers, simply because if they are not paying the additional money for the insurance, then it ultimately is going to make its way back into city programs. So at least in that instance, there is a direct benefit back to the city.
And the senior club, they provide tons of volunteers, and that helps us with staffing a senior program that we would not be able to do at the current staffing levels that we have. Historically, when they did raise more money before COVID, they actually did provide the city grants each year from about $2,500 to $3,000, depending on what they had available.
Thank you. Any more questions on D?
I've been convinced. Thank you.
All righty, I'll take a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I gotta remember to say aye. Open with aye, still gotta follow with aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Let us chug on along to item E, which is the Senior Services Master Plan. Can I get a staff report?
So I am personally incredibly excited about this particular item. That said, I'm going to let Director Noda explain the nuances of it, but just to say that for a city of our size to take on this type of programming or this kind of master plan is, I will have to say, best in class, simply because there is no class. The only entity that I'm aware of that is doing this is the county, and doing it on a county scale. So the idea that a small city would step in and make this kind of effort for their residents is, well, it's largely unprecedented. So, but with that, I'll Director Noda.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, I've been here a long time, for 16 years, and it has been my pleasure to oversee the senior program since I started here in Los Alamitos, and I've done tremendous amount of work to try and figure out our population and their needs, as they are different than previous cities I've been employed with. Our seniors are very active. You will not find one senior at our center 5 days a week because they go to all kinds of different centers around the local area. But the challenge has been, with a growing number of seniors at 34% of over 50, is to program for ages 50 to 100. And as you can do the math, there are several decades in between 50 to 100 and several different activity levels between our seniors. So our challenge, but honor to have this challenge, is to find out what is going to keep our seniors engaged for 20 plus years and beyond. We are honored to take on this challenge to put Los Alamitos at the forefront in terms of California Park and Recreation Society, and leading the way to discover what these seniors' needs are, and maybe help to represent other communities and how they can model a pathway for their seniors for the next 20 years. So this Senior Services Master Plan is going to do just that. We're trying to engage with local universities to help us in their gerontology departments, as well as a potential consultant to do outreach. We just conducted 2022 a senior needs assessment that was very just small, program based. It was a sample of only 100 seniors that already were participating in our programs, but that's only 100 sample. We want to outreach more. We want to outreach further into the community to seniors who, one, don't know about our programs, don't participate, don't have the means of transportation, and are isolated. At one point in my career here, when we used to do Meals on Wheels, I myself delivered meals when volunteers were not available. And I would go out into our community and see seniors that had nobody. And I would walk into their home, they couldn't even open the door. Their door was just left open as an apartment. And I would say, where would you like me to leave your meals? And I would open the fridge, freezer, and there would just be a ton of meals, and they wouldn't have anyone to talk to. So I have hundreds of stories that I could tell you, and I have a passion. Our team is dedicated, Trini, as you know, of one of them, to serving this population. And I mean, I myself am gonna be 50 in 7 years, and not to be selfish, but you know, there's a big difference between those that are, you know, just newly 50 and those that are bingo players and those that play bunco and, different activities. So we want to find what is going to work for our particular community. And reaching even further, we want to serve our veterans. And this plan will incorporate them, include them, connect them to this community. So I'm asking a small, I don't want to call it a favor, but a small consideration of appropriating 60 to 70,000 for this plan to help us to be able to do it right and go out into the community and find the answers of what our residents want and need for the next 20 years.
So I will add, in addition to the obvious passion that there is for this project, but as the cynical city manager, the adoption of a master plan, much like we have done in other places, the town center mixed-use plan, the active transportation plan, by having these plans in place, it allows us to access money that is out there because we've shown that we've already done the research. We've shown that we've already have the adopted plan. It shows that we've already done the outreach to show that there are partners in the community that are willing to be a part of this. Obviously, this is the largest growing segment of our population. It's the largest growing segment of any population in anywhere in California. So to say that we are doing this now and that we are first, everybody else will be doing this eventually. The fact that we can get out ahead of it and potentially be able to tap into resources that other people haven't even thought of doing yet is, again, it's a large undertaking. I would have likened this to doing a general plan update, which those of you that have been through it before is an undertaking in and of itself. And so the very simple fact that we have two universities that are already willing to partner with us in order to see us start this is, I think, impressive. I do believe that we are getting some benefit of being the small, little, mighty city that could, that we have we've shown already that we know how to make these partnerships work and that we're able to deploy our situations or our solutions quickly, namely saying, especially the work that's already been done with senior transportation. So again, a project that will cost $70,000 today, I think would largely cost maybe double that down the road once everybody else realizes that they need to be doing this in order to service their population in town.
Well, I personally like it for two probably selfish reasons. First is because we are the forerunners for it. Any funding that does become available, we are already shovel-ready for. And then secondly, we're so accustomed already to dealing with some of our sister cities, we can just get them to throw their same funding into our kitty so we can just grow our program instead of them having to create their own. So I'm looking at it, I think it would be like an investment into the future for our Emmeline seniors. Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Mrs. Noda. The presentation was amazing. You know how much I love the seniors and bingo, and I am getting closer to 50, which I didn't realize is considered a senior. Yeah, that's kind of saddening. I do want to ask, why was 20 years chosen as the selected time for the programming and the infrastructure?
That's just typically what general plans and master plans kind of foresee because facilities do age. So this plan would give us insight into what type of infrastructure we would need to build. Because as you know, as you come every Thursday and sometimes on Tuesdays, we have outgrown our facility. And in terms of youth programs, senior programs, it was built in 1970. And 50 years later, we have grown in population and grown in participation. So this would help us to reimagine or imagine a new facility to accommodate. And just in terms of 20 years at a time, just so infrastructure is updated at those increments.
So it would take into consideration the changing as we evolve over the next 20 years?
Correct.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I just want to comment real quick. 9 years ago when I came here, Emmeline was talking about the senior program, and she got me really excited about it. And I wanted it something to be that let's have it before I need it, I need it. So I am not going to be 50 next year. I'll be older. And that's okay. It's just one of those things where some of the needs of the seniors are so minimal. I've been looking into different senior programs and what they're offering. They have volunteers and they just call seniors every day just to have a conversation. Doesn't cost any money. Just to have that socialization. I'm a firm believer my grandmother lived to be 97 years old, and the reason is because Palm Springs has an amazing senior program. And every day she had a reason to get up, get dressed, and go sew with her buddies. And to me, we take really, really good care of our children and our youth, which in turn takes really, really good care of our parents. And it's time we take care of our seniors because they're not going anywhere. We're the youngest ones on our block, and we're considered seniors. So I'm really excited about the potential, about getting the community involved with volunteer opportunities. I've seen where they have handyman that they'll donate 4 hours a month to go and just, put in a new smoke detector or whatever. Same thing with gardening. We don't need landscaping. We just need some flowers planted. And it's so overwhelming for seniors, some of them, not all of them, to be able to do that. Another thing is splitting up the seniors since it is a 50-year age span. Us seniors on the younger age are looking for resources of how to stop parenting our kids and how to start parenting our parents. We're not looking into retirement anytime soon. We know how to get our taxes done. We hopefully know how to use our phone. Those on the older side of the senior program need those services. So we're going to be able to break those up and really be at least decade specific or season specific, being able to offer those programs to people. The county has an entire department devoted to this. They've committed to help us. They're really excited about it. And I just want to thank Emmeline for just sticking with it, and let's get it going. I'm a senior. Thank you.
As someone who is far, far away from 50, token millennial, wink, wink, I would love to see, as you're delving into this, I'd love to see, for example, 2 weeks ago, I have a 98-year-old next door neighbor. He is in assisted living. I have a 92-year-old next door neighbor. Across the street is Miss Martha. So the three of them are all in their 90s. So a couple of weeks ago, we went to go visit the 98-year-old neighbor in his assisted living facility. I assumed I would drive. The 92-year-old, he refused and said, "No, I'm driving." Okay, yes, sir. So we drove and to go visit him. These three had been neighbors since the 60s, that they've lived near each other, decades before I was born. I'd love to see something that can help keep those neighborly relationships together, that whether it's go visit a resident that's living in assisted living or something to kind of keep that community together. It was really special, to go with these older neighbors of mine, to go visit another neighbor of mine, but I'm not sure what to call that, or I don't know really what I'm asking for, but if we can just be mindful that there's a lot of neighbors here that live in LaSalle that have lived here a really long time. And for some of us that precedes us, and if there's something that we can do as the younger generation to be mindful of that or participate in that or contribute to serving our senior residents, not just as a way to honor them, but really to serve them as neighbors, to serve our community. So if we could, just be mindful of something like that. And then also, if we could also be mindful, I have several neighbors, my more masculine neighbors, seniors. They like to golf, fish, and shoot. I'm not sure if that works into a senior plan, but they're not exactly the bingo type. They're a little bit more robust. So if we can keep something like that in mind for these the older seniors who still like to get out there and swing a club or go golfing or shooting. So if we can keep that in mind. Thank you.
All right. Jordan, unless you have something to add, I think we can get a motion in a second.
I have nothing to add. I'm just depressed that I'll be a senior next month.
Well, don't be
So-
depressed because you have an opportunity to
Shut up, I'll
provide
beat you with
input
my
for you.
cane.
I'm gonna just move out the way and let y'all have at it.
Got a cane to hit you with.
I did have one more comment. Will there be a program that addresses like Alzheimer's and dementia for the seniors?
For sure, we definitely deal with that often, and we can definitely, I'll write that down on my notes, but we're trying to be all-encompassing, so this assessment, focus groups, whatever you want to call it, however we get this information, there will be plenty of opportunities to provide input, and we will be taking copious notes and putting it, our consultant will be putting it all into a professional document that will outline all of these services, or recommendations of services.
Thank you so much.
I would be thrilled to move the item.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Madam Mayor, if I may, one of the recommendations was to consider appropriating funds. Is that something council would like to include in the motion, and if so, how much?
I was assuming that that was already included, but thank you for making me specify that there is a dollar amount attached to this motion. So that being clarified, do I maintain my first and my second?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Fantastic. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Let's move on to item F. Can I get a staff report for F?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is largely, again, tied to the item that we just had. This is an item that would actually move 3 part-time community services coordinators into full-time employment here. Obviously, we will be expanding our senior services. Aquatics will now be a year-round endeavor for us after the success that we had this last summer. And then obviously youth sports and adult sports continue to grow. This item would also allow for the hiring of a department secretary within the admin department that would service the city manager's office, city clerk, finance, and the rationale there is that we have been operating without I've been operating without a dedicated secretary since my arrival here, since Chelsea left me to go and run HR. So the idea here being that instead of a executive assistant, I would like to have a department secretary that is able to cover all of those different departments. I do have specific goals for that individual and what exactly they'll be looking to accomplish, but it will be something that will be available to all the different departments. The nice thing about this is that the revenue generated within the recreation department will cover the cost of the 3 additional positions within that department.
Wow. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I do have a few questions. So the department secretary for the administration, it says that the annual fiscal impact is $116,095. Is that the total proposed salary?
No, that is a complete physical impact, if I'm not mistaken, Craig?
That's correct, it's full burden.
So that covers, that's not just salary, it covers benefits and anything that we would have to pay in terms of CalPERS and such.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's a line in here, it says, this position will primarily provide administrative support for the city manager and be used for creative writing and video promotions. Can you help me with the creative writing and video promotions?
So it's actually, those are 2 qualities that I'm actually looking for within the next, whoever the, one of the candidates will be. Obviously, there'll be an entire job description, but one of the things that we are looking for is somebody who is able to start, I'll say, categorizing some of the stories within the city and being able to compile them in a certain way. And so one of the skill sets that we are looking for is someone who has a creative writing background or has a literature background. And then also with regards to video production skills, that is something that we do have a couple of people in-house that are very good at it. I'd like to grow that cachet a little bit and so that we are not always taxing the same people in order to produce videos. So those are additional skill sets that we'll be looking for in a secretary, not the primary skill sets.
Okay. I thought, when I read it, I thought that was a little bit goofy to have a secretary who's also writing iambic pentameter or something, but
No,
the
that,
primary
that
focus
is not the goal at
is,
all.
is administrative. Okay, appreciate that.
I do have one more follow-up. How will she work aligned with Ms. Preciada, the clerical assistant?
I'm sorry?
How will they work in alignment, since this will be the department secretary,
Mhm.
but there's also a clerical assistant, Ms. Preciado?
They will have definitely different skills and job sets that they will have to do. So I do see their work overlapping from the standpoint of being able to hand off work to one another whenever there's a need. However, their day-to-day work will be vastly different.
Great, thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion in a second?
I'll move the item.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just to clarify, we are moving the item to approve these positions for the mid-year budget.
Do I need to
Yeah.
say that?
I'm just clarifying.
Thank you for clarifying that for me and my whole life. Wendy, that's why I need you. So y'all heard the city clerk. She is more official than me at this moment. So with the clarification in place, I had a motion. I will second, and it's all in favor? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We will move on to G, the consideration to implement Revive Los Alamitos.
Madam
I
Mayor,
just killed a mosquito. Okay, I apologize. Yes, staff report, please.
going to ask Mr. Montenegro if you can provide a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Chet, and good evening, Mayor and members of the council and colleagues. I'm here excited to provide you with the background on Revive Los Alamitos. Before I do that, I also want to kind of mention that this is sort of the next episode to what we're doing in our Economic Development Division, where we just recently ran a Pine Streets event in conjunction with Park and Recreation's event, Celebrate Los Al, which was by all accounts a hit and a success for our local restaurants. We also had a booth for development services at Taste of Los Al, where we had gift cards as part of our activity drawing for participants that stopped by the development services booth, City of Los Alamitos booth, and benefited the restaurants in Los Alamitos. So as you can see, we're trying to blossom what the Economic Development Division is doing in support of our local businesses. And so this would be, again, a next episode to that chapter for our Revive Los Alamitos program. And so as you'll see in the packet and as you'll see on the presentation, the objective here is to focus now on our brick and mortar small businesses and commercial establishments in the city. The idea behind this is that it'll basically help fund improvement projects, anything from aesthetics to structural to the presentation, the shopping experience that one receives as they walk up to a business. If you look at the city of Los Alamitos, as you know, it's not very large, but there are definitely areas of improvement. A lot of it can be enhanced through the benefit of this program. And so the idea is that we can hopefully tap into our businesses in town and really offer them this opportunity that's gonna help incentivize them and entice them to invest in their property. And so amongst those, I'll mention the criteria that you'll see on the presentation as well, is they have to be in the town, they have to be in City of Los Alamitos, they can't be outside its borders. There has to be a direct nexus between permitted work and local economy. And what that means is that we wanna really push that our local businesses, if they're making improvements, that they look internally first. So it kind of goes hand in hand with stimulating our local economy. So if they need supplies, they can go to Ganal Lumber or other type of businesses in town where they can obtain that. If they need contractual work and services, they can seek through the services in town for anyone that has appropriate business license, the permits that they have to obtain through the city. All of that gets vetted out directly, and it's a hand-in-hand agreement of making sure that we're really tapping into our local economy. Among the other things, we want to make sure that there's free of any building and code violations. Of course, we want to encourage that as part of the participation, as it was with Los Al Bucks, as it was with Pine Streets, you got to have a clean record. And in doing so, you're making sure that you're If it's a business license you're reactivating, you're renewing, that goes with another victory there. So there's obviously a goal to not just provide funding, but there's also, sort of a kind of behind the scenes goal to make sure that everything's on the up and up. Additionally, we want to make sure that the program is successful. Through the course of this, we anticipate about a full year's worth that this will be available. I'll get into the numbers in a little bit, but basically we want to make sure that we have enough time to tap into our city and encourage participation. So there is going to be a marketing plan of outreach, dissemination going out. It's going to be a strategic way of really ensuring that everyone knows that this is available. So there will be areas that might be what I call gray areas that the city staff internally will decipher, but ultimately this would be the criteria that is applied to the businesses that are interested. And some of the eligible improvements that we are hoping that we can encourage participation is for anyone that's interested in exterior paint design, windows, signage, landscape, irrigation, awnings, canopies, pergolas, exterior facade treatments, technology for electronic payment. That is one thing that is through Los Al Bucks, we discovered that there are still quite a few businesses that don't have smart pay capability, that don't actually accept debit card because they have limited access, whether it be Wi-Fi, whether it be just the expense that's required for that. And so this would really provide that other additional opportunity for businesses in town to enhance that experience, not only from a consumer, but also from a business component. So these are all the improvements that are going to be eligible. And through the actual application process, it would be provided to those applicants that are interested. There would be strict guidelines, but there's also going to be handy step-by-step instructions on what to do to meet this criteria. As far as the financial impact and the numbers, we're looking at about $5,000 worth of marketing costs. Again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, we want to make sure that we spread the word out to our community, and that's going to be through the same sort of familiar outreach sources, social media, newsletter, email blasts, flyers, door hangers, you can name it all. We're going to do everything to make sure that everyone's aware about this opportunity. And as far as the program expenses, it's about $100,000 that's going to be coming out of our economic development division budget, where a business would have the capability of up to $15,000 of project improvement funding, where 50% of that would be coming through this fund. So it's basically designed to be first come, first serve as they apply, make sure that they fill all the boxes, that we have everything we need up front, and that there will be a tiered process of reimbursement for not only making sure that the business essentially is going to fulfill the commitment of making improvements, but making sure that we obviously have everything in place to provide them that reimbursement. So that pretty much wraps up that presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Madam Mayor, if I can, just before we get into the questions, and I know that Mr. Montenegro covered a lot of ground there, but at its very heart, this is a facade improvement program. And I know that you all have seen some recent examples of this throughout town, the Basie's Kitchen, and then also the glass shop on Los Al Boulevard that just recently, on the corner of Florissa, which, you know, had for a long time just needed just a coat of paint, just a new sign. And they got that, and it looks 100 times better. This essentially becomes the broken window theory in reverse, that if one business will start to look nice, the business next door will start to look nice, the property owner down the street will start to think about, well, do I lose a tenant because of their building looking nicer, and start the wheel of actually putting more and more money into these properties that probably haven't seen a whole lot of investment in the last 10 to 15 years. And so this obviously is, I will call it a catalyst project in terms of trying to get some of those businesses to actually, and property owners to actually take that first step to improving the overall look of the city.
Are there any incentives, like if you get a few neighbors, 'cause I'm not gonna call any names, but if you drive down one of our main boulevards, you'll see there's this really nice looking business, and then right next to it, it's like they drew a line in the sand, and the paint is peeling and the awning is washed out and whatever. So are there like any incentives if you get a block of businesses that want to refresh themselves?
You know, we haven't actually gone down that road as of yet. To tell you the truth, we saw this as kind of the low-hanging fruit to try to get some of those smaller businesses to actually make that investment. However, I think one of the things that that I've learned through different projects or programs like this is that once you get one, everyone starts asking about it, much like when we did Los Al Bucks. I know you probably all got plenty of phone calls from your friends in Rossmore asking why they couldn't get Los Al Bucks. And so by constantly offering these programs and being able to package maybe 2 or 3 of these companies together and actually bring them in as a project, that can then be something that the Economic Development Division can try to put together and then bring to the council as a whole.
Okay. All right, any additional questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Most small businesses don't own their building. So a small business would apply because, yeah, they do want a fresh coat of paint and they do not want nice windows and nice sign. How are we going to facilitate working with the property owner to sign off on that? That's part one. And part two is, in a shocking discovery, there are landlords that are bad actors, even in our lovely city. And what I want to make sure is there's some sort of fail-safe in there where if, because ultimately you'd be giving the grant money to the building owner to do the facade improvement of their building. And I just want to make sure that then they don't turn around and raise their rent of their small businesses because, look, we have this beautiful new facade for you, which they didn't even pay for. So just some things to think about.
Definitely. I think that's
Yeah, it's all about relationship building. I think this is a good opportunity to set a new trend for opportunities that are there. And for me personally, I definitely feel like that's a relationship starting conversation to encourage that acceptance. Can't control, obviously, some things that go beyond or behind closed doors, but through the relationship that we have with the businesses, as we have hopefully gain trust of the business community through other programs, this would be another opportunity for them to basically use this as a way to say, okay, we're interested in this, but here's what we're having difficulty with, whether it be a property owner, if they're leasing that, parcel or building. If it's something that has to be much larger than that, I know that's going to be something that will emerge, and we're prepared to have those conversations and hopefully entice that for the property owner to say, yes, we're all for it. It's a win-win. And so that's the sort of the pitch really is we want to have higher, I would say, quality in anything, right? Whether it's programs, services, or in this case, our businesses. And that's only going to draw that level of service through more visits and through more conversations, whether it's Yelp reviews, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's the experience that they receive from a number of examples that Chet provided. Another one is California Cocina. Just not too long ago, they redesigned their interior, and it just enhances that experience. And so that would be the way that we would hope to send that message, is through that optimistic view of saying this is only going to improve your, increase your wallet. But it's not as easy as just saying yes, please do it. It's a lot of relationship building.
I think with the small businesses, most of the owners live local. Most of the landlords do not, some not even in the state. One of our major landowners here lives in Beverly Hills, and I don't think he's crossed the orange curtain in years. So I just want to make sure that when we present this to our small businesses, and a lot of them are sole proprietorships, that we can also give them the assistance to be able to start the conversation with the landlord about why this makes sense for them as well. Thank you.
When I was reviewing the municipal codes for Los Alamitos, I noticed that there are some regulations in regards to signage, and I know I've spoken with Mr. Noda about that. So is that a consideration that's being made in regards to certain signage that businesses are unable to put up to, enhance their exterior? Because I understand there's certain colors you can't do, there's certain dimensions that you have to stay within.
So all the improvements will have to be in line with city code. that is just going to be it's a standard of approval at this point. Now, I think that is there room to talk about design elements and whether or not the city needs to address, I'll call it consistency across the base. And I do believe that that is something that the city does need to look at on a wholesale kind of a plane, just from the standpoint that there never has been what I'll call an established Los Alamitos look per se that extends from border to border. And that's something that I think that, at this point, the city should be looking at.
I agree with that. Thank you.
Can we include something like that in this, some sort of a suggested color palette or suggested list of materials?
We luckily benefit from having a staff that actually does have a fairly good artistic eye when it comes to planning and such. And so we obviously will be engaging him and helping with this. And that does help it here in the short term, I think, definitely. That being said, I do like the idea of the city as a whole starting to look at what exactly we would like the design elements to be. And it might be specific to different neighborhoods. It might be throughout just the boulevard corridors. But there is a true benefit to having not only property owners, but prospective business owners or prospective developers being able to say, well, if I move into town, they're going to ask me to build this type of building. So that is something that I think we can do. It's just it wouldn't fall inside of the timeline with this program, but it is something that, again, we can go back to the woodshed and see if there's something that we can put together for it.
Thank you. Another thing that I'd like to see in the messaging for this, I see, irrigation here. It kind of makes me think of the tax man, right? So new irrigation systems are considered improvements and they're not tax deductible. You have to depreciate them versus paint as a repair or something. If we can include minimal tax advice so that a property owner might, if they're not familiar with what's considered a tax deductible repair or depreciable improvement, something to just suggest that so they're not surprised by our program?
We can look into that with the caveat that we won't be providing tax advice.
Lovely. I also, if I heard you correctly, this is eligible for businesses with a business license here in the city. So to my understanding, 501c3s or nonprofits aren't required to have business licenses. Are we excluding nonprofits or accidentally or intentionally? Or is this specifically for for-profit businesses?
So I'm gonna take that answer, that question. So even though it's not required for a nonprofit to gain a business license, they can obtain a business. We actually recommend them to get a business license, and it's at a no fee for them to obtain a business license. So to answer your question, is yes, they can participate. If they don't have a business license, they have to go through the process. But again, it's a no fee charge to them.
Nice, thank you.
Alrighty. Can I get a motion and a wait, is there? Okay. A motion and a second for item G?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Y'all gotta move quicker. I'm gonna start moving and seconding everything myself. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Let us move on to item H, Community Center Roof Project. Can I get a staff report, please?
So I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Noda. Obviously, this has been a long time coming, but we're finally there.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening again. Before I go into this, if you just spare me, as we're covering a lot of ground here, and it kind of all intertwines a little bit. Like, one of the things that we first started off with was accommodation to the Code Enforcement Division, and part of their duties is to preserve the neighborhood preservation in the city. And then we went to revive Los Alamitos, which is again to beautify the city, right? And there's a lot of other projects that we're working on. Again, it follows several different objectives there, right? The goal there is to beautify the city, but objectively objects is you increase economic development. Part of beautifying the city can, in an indirect way, you trim some hedges or you put different types of vegetation to increase safety per se. It will also increase, like I stated, economic development, but basically increase safety as well and quality of life, right? One of the things that our code enforcement division has notified me several times is the fact that when they're out there telling a resident or a property owner that they have to maintain their property a little bit better, they always come back to the city and saying, what's up with the city? Why aren't you guys doing a better job? You're over here giving me a notice of violation. A notice of violation is not a ticket. It's just there's a violation that you gotta maintain your property a little bit better. And they always come back to the city. So I'm gonna dive into this here is, our Civic Center, as you are aware, Council, is built in the either in the late 1960s here at City Hall or the 1970s over at the Community Center and the Youth Center, right? And so it's been around for over 50 years. If I do my math correctly, it's like 53 years or so. And because of deferred maintenance and everything like that, due to various reasons, our facilities are in very bad condition. And so part of that, of course, is the community center, all right? And so our community center, as you're aware, houses entertains thousands and thousands of guests every year. They offer a variety of programs. They offer a variety of events. Winter Wonderland, Weekend of Art is held there. They just had the women's conference there. Well, again, programs from senior programs that we mentioned before earlier to being a senior center on Tuesdays and Thursdays, giving programs such as the grocery program, little kids, dance classes, to adults learning how to play guitar, to our preschool facility on site there. The youth center used to be there, but they moved out recently to their own location. But again, it has thousands and thousands of people visit that. And so because of the use of it, which is heavily used, plus the deferred maintenance over the years, when we had our recent storm in early 2023, the community center incurred significant damage. And so I want to point out that the early 2023 storm was so severe that the governor announced a state of emergency for that, all right? And because of the damages that was incurred, we came as a staff to council in March of 23 to and received approval to appropriate $500,000 for repairs. So then the team here went to work to get repairs, and so this is a drawing here. Damages that were incurred, right, was the large kitchen, craft room, activity room 2, activity room 3, our front lobby, office space. So again, with all the myriads of programming that the Recreation Community Services does, the entire management team is housed in that building, several offices, and of course several storage closets were damaged. And here's some pictures of some of the damage. As you can see, again, it got so bad that the ceiling caved in, and some of those places, that's the large kitchen to the left and a storage closet to the right, they were deemed unsafe, so there are basically no admittance in there currently right now. So again, like I mentioned, the staff went to work trying to get, quotes, and so part of that quotes were received, and so what are items to be performed was abatement. So we did testing on that facility, on that building, and hazardous material was found, so we're in the process of scheduling abatement for that. Removal and installation of new exterior roof, removal and installation of new rain gutter system, new exterior wood coverings, new exterior paint, repair of damaged drywall due to the water running down, as you saw in the pictures previously. Water went into the electrical system and damaged some of the outlets and the wires inside the walls. Removal of old and damaged light fixtures and installation of new light fixtures, covering of interior ceilings with black bead boards. So as you could tell in the previous picture, in that middle one, some of the ceilings fell off, the ceiling tiles. So we're gonna cover that with what they call black bead boards. And then a new interior paint, and of course a refinished floor will be done to it as well. All right, so here are some renderings that has come up on how the new community center would look like in the back, in the outside, to your picture to the left, and that's the rendering of the interior there. So as you can see, the black beadboard on the ceiling, new floors, new paint, that 1970 carpet that if you go into the community center that is affixed to the wall will be taken out, and the big one there is a new light fixture. So these are the close-up. So the building right now has, again, clay tiles on it. We are replacing that with black composite-looking material. Couple things here is the clay tiles are very difficult to work with, and so when it's damaged, you have to. It's very difficult to find a replacement, and then go in there and remediate that. So these composite tiles are much better, and then it's also for the future too. Is if we ever delve into solar, it's a lot easier to put solar panels on composite tiles versus clay tiles. So that's something that's done. It's clay tiles are much more economical, much more longer lasting, and again, it's something for the future if we need to, if we ever go into the solar. And then of course, that's a rendering of the light fixture that's coming, more modern than the one that's currently out there that again was installed in 1970. Here's a tentative work schedule. Let me blow it up on my screen. So if right now, if council approves tonight, we will start in the month of December for mobilization and procurement. So mobilization is basically getting the site ready. Again, I mentioned that we went in and did hazardous abatement. They found some. We have to do that, take care of that before any roof work or interior work can be done. Mobilization is, of course, to try to minimize the effect of the programming and the operation of the building. We're going to do this in stages, and because of that, we have to make some safety measures. Like there's a playground there. Preschool will still operate, so we have to install fencing so that if something did fall off the roof, that there's a barrier there in a drop zone, so that kids utilizing the playground won't get injured. So that's one example. December to January is exterior construction, so they'll go in there and do the exterior removal, installation. Then January 22nd to March 1st, they'll come in, interior construction. March 4th to March 15th are punch list item, any low-hanging fruit. That's my new phrase that I hear all the time, low-hanging fruit. March 4th to the 15th, and then it'll take a week or two for demobilization. And if everything goes well, March 29th is end of construction. I would like to reiterate and stress that this is a tentative work schedule. The building has incurred significant damage throughout a number of years. We did a roof project over there that did one section of the roof in 2015, and it's been leaking ever since. So that means that it's about 7 to 8 years of water running through the rafters. We don't know what we're gonna find once we take off the roof. There could be dry rot, there could be other damages in there, and so we are prepared for that. But again, this is a tentative work schedule, and we're working closely with the Recreation Community Services to, again, minimize, again, the effect of this project on their programming as much as possible. One example is we were slated to go in to do some work on the youth center, the former youth center building. We have postponed that so they could utilize that space as an option for classes and programs. And I believe the Recreation Community Service Department has worked with the Legion across the street to utilize that space as well. So again, we are trying our very best to minimize, affecting their programs and their offerings to the community. So we went out, and you asked why it took so long for us to come back. This was a very difficult project to get quotes on. We went out to several vendors. We had several site visits. It's in the, I can't remember exactly, but we're going about 10 to 12 vendors we reached out to with site visits. It was very difficult. They all had a myriad of reasoning why they didn't want to do the project. At the end, we obtained 3 quotes, as you can see right here in the next slide. Right? Kaya Group, the ADCO Group, and the Best Contracting Services, right? Staff is recommending to enter into construction contract with the Kaya Group. As you can see right there, that again, I want to remind council that March 2023, you appropriated $500,000 to this project. We are requesting an additional $1,291,000 approximately, for a total of $1.790952. Again, you can see the numbers there. Everything has put in there from engineering costs to the contingency. We are confident that whatever we find in there, that contingency, it's hefty, it's at 20%, will cover that cost. And so we don't have to come back to council for another appropriation. But again, we're requesting additional money for a total of $1,790,952,000. How do we pay for this? Basically, staff is recommending that we pay for this first out of general fund. We are applying for I want to get the name right. In anticipation, we applied, and we are anticipating receiving a state disaster relief grant that has been submitted due to the governor's state of emergency declaration for the full allotment of getting reimbursed, again, if we decide to go with the Kaya Group at approximately $1.791 million. I'm here for any questions. That's the conclusion of my report. Thank you.
Are there any questions about that roof report?
Can I highlight something just before we go down this road? And I think Ron did a great job of explaining the various components of this. And obviously, this has grown from a roof repair to a roof replacement at this point. The value of that is that the warranties are all in place. But also, if you take a look at the different items that are actually going to be performed, and I will direct you all the way to the bottom, which is refinishing the floors. The completion of this project does hand over to the city a brand new community center at this point. That is, especially if we are successful in getting the grant from the state, because this was caused during a state of emergency. That's quite a boon to the city.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Noda, for the presentation. It really was comprehensive. I just have a couple of questions. Do you know the anticipated schedule for potentially receiving the reimbursement from the state disaster relief grant?
Correct. According to our manager in PD, I think he's a support service manager, there are two allotments. I believe the city manager can remind me. There's I know one for is like a 12-month. If we fall in line in that basically cup, or the other one's 18 months right now. So we're anticipating that if we fall in, well, we're going to fall in either one of them, we'll get that reimbursement within 12 to 18 months.
And that is correct.
Okay. And my second question is, what is a follow-up option if that does not get approved by the state?
In the event that we are unsuccessful in getting a grant from the state, then we will pursue insurance in order to cover the funding. The downside of this is that you cannot pursue both at the same time. You have to do one and then the other.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One of the issues that we had, one of the challenges that we had was that the community center had a flat roof.
Correct.
With the architectural drawings, are we going to be adding a pitch, or are we staying with the flat roof?
So unfortunately, we did have our engineering team take a look at not really repitching the roof, but adding a covering over that. And structurally, because you're adding additional weight, we'd had to do some structural reinforcement to the whatever the walls or the footings, and so that we could not do that. So right now, working with the company and doing some very, very modern material that they're having used out there, they're confident that we'll get the situation resolved. What they found out was the big issue was there's a drain up there, and the drain pipe was broken and cracked. So part of the specs is replacing that drainage system from that flat area and doing a couple things to make sure that, and like lowering the drain too. The drain was a foot off the floor, so that means that the water had to pond a foot before it started to drain out. So they're gonna lower that drain so it wouldn't pond, you know, that flat area wouldn't pond up.
You're talking about the downspouts on the roof that when the water reaches them, they
Correct.
Go down to the
So
ground?
in the flat area, all right, it's because they have walls on it. It's like basically it turns into a pool up there, and so there's a drain, but it was designed back in 1970 to have the drain a foot above the ground level. So basically a foot of water would accumulate before it started to drain. So that was one of the main reasons why we had an issue with leakage around the flat roof area. So one of the two ways to resolve it is to, of course, fix the broken drain, and second is to lower the drain down so that much water don't accumulate in that area.
How many downspouts do you think are on the roof right now?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know there is approximately 3 flat areas, and each of the flat area has 3, right? And so I'm sure there's a minimum of 3, but I don't know how many for sure.
Several?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious, for the roof alone, what are we looking at for that? How much is just the roof part? For the tax man?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. They submitted a bid schedule. Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me right now, but yeah, I can get that to you, but it's probably, again, I don't want to give you a number, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for getting rid of the mosquito pool on top of the community center. I'm very appreciative. Can I get a motion and a second for item H, bearing in mind that there is a price tag attached to it of $1,290,952 to bring the cumulative to $1,790,952.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Okay. Can we move on to item I, award Stearns Park Playground and Fitness Equipment Purchase? Staff report, please.
I'm going to turn this one back over to Mr. Noda to complete, but this obviously has been yet another difficult project, just given the funding source. But again, remembering that it is completely grant funded, and so sometimes it's good to wait for the things that are free. And Mr. Noda.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce this, and we have a couple people that can answer the details. So one is our Development Services Manager, Irving Montenegro, and we also have here, I call him Chuck. Sorry, Chuck, but if you wanted a formal name, Charles, but right, with Hirsch and Associate, who is our contracted vendor to assist us with this project. So what I want to say here is we have a master plan in terms of all our pocket parks as we go and reimagine or renovate these parks, right? And so the thought here is we're going to go in and we're going to renovate the entire park and take care of everything: landscaping, modernizing equipment, ADA issues, right? Again, due to funding several years ago, we just kind of did it in bits and pieces, right? And so one example is the last playground that we done was Orville Lewis Park, where we just went in and just did the play equipment. There's still several issues there that we're going to get to eventually, but we went through the Parks and Rec Commission. Emmeline went through that, and they developed a plan for each park to have a signature piece. So our first park that we tackle here is Stearns Park, and what makes this unique is it will become an all-inclusive park, right? Most parks, due to ADA laws, have a percentage. I need Chuck to remind me, it's like 20% or something like that. That has to be ADA. You have to have ADA parts of it. This park here will be all inclusive. So basically, an ADA child can go and utilize almost every piece of equipment there. All right, so again, I'm gonna have Irving walk us through it, and again, Chuck here is our lead. We're from Hirsch and Associates, and they're here to answer any specific questions for you.
Just trying to get the clicker passed back to me. Hot potato. I know it's been a long meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and rapid fire, but with color here. So the background. If you didn't realize, Stearns Park, it is a pocket park, and it's nestled on Maple Street and Farquhar Avenue. As Ron mentioned earlier, it is going to receive a major facelift. As he mentioned, it's not just the playground. It's dedicated to bring a new look and feel. So as playgrounds evolve over years, over time, they become not just more modern, but they become more accessible. And the commitment to that is that, as Ron alluded to, a family member, a child, anybody that has limited access would essentially be able to enjoy the use of this playground at Stearns Park. And there's fitness equipment as well that's designed, thankfully, by Hirsch and Associates to make it all-inclusive in certain amenities as well. The actual land itself is less than an acre, but there will be improvements that are going to be pretty much touching every corner, from landscape, irrigation, to if someone wanted to have a party or gathering, there's going to be a new shade structure. The playground itself is going to be fresh. It's going to be nice. It's going to be all-inclusive. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this was presented to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Commission back to decide on the actual options, and we landed on the one that we're going to present to you tonight through Game Time. So the renderings that you see here that were designed by our team with Hirsch Associates through the use of different options that you can view, different angles. You can see that, for example, on this screen, the top left drawing, at the bottom right corner, there's looks like a boat. Someone in a wheelchair can literally go in there without having to be lifted off the wheelchair. And there's plenty of examples in different communities that this is a success, not just for that family, but for the community as a whole. We currently do not have that in the city. This would be the first of its kind that would really put this playground structure design on the map for modern improvement, but better accessibility. On the bottom right, you'll see different fitness equipment. That, again, is intended for someone that is family, that wants to come out, enjoy the playground, enjoy the park. There would be, through ADA laws, not just park improvements, but also exterior improvements to the ramp as you essentially cross the street, pull up to the park. There's going to be areas where someone that's wheelchair bound or someone that has limited access will be able to even access to the park. So there's a lot of excitement through this, not just from a fresh look, as you can see the colors and the renderings that demonstrate this. It's really about the success story through the accessibility and just really putting this on the map. The numbers that you're probably interested in hearing about tonight, this is another opportunity through what we're really here for tonight is the cooperative purchasing agreement with Omnia Partners. It's essentially a piggyback contract that we can utilize through other organizations that utilize the services for Game Time. So for example, a city outside of our area, as across North Cal, South Cal, or even Orange County, that utilize Omnia Partners as a purchasing agreement, we'd be able to piggyback and secure a better rate. And it would also expedite the process of obtaining the equipment and ensuring that we're meeting our deadline through the CDBG process of obtaining our grant and meeting that deadline, but also making sure that we're not slowing down our design team and that everything's really off and running. So the figures there, as you can see, account for the 20% discount that we otherwise would have to essentially bid for, and that only prolongs the project deadline as well. So with that being said, I can answer any questions you may have. I also want to thank Chuck for being here tonight, for making the time to hopefully answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, we're hopefully excited to get this going.
Expected completion rate for this project is the spring of '24. We're hoping to actually put a shovel in the ground probably in January of '24. So again, we have a saying, you probably hear it in a lot of places, but in capital improvement, we're on budget, on time. And so doing this piggyback will keep us on budget, on time.
I'd also just want to add that this will be the first of all the parks that eventually get touched through this program. So again, it's a Herculean effort, and the the fact that the first one of these is getting off the ground right now is, I think, fortuitous, especially given the amount of work that's had to go in on the front side in order to make sure that we have contractors that are able to actually meet the CDBG guidelines.
Okay, well, before we come up here, you've been sitting here so patiently. Was there anything that you wanted to share or that you want to offer to us before we can ask? So at least the drive is worth your time?
Good evening. I think that's on. Good evening. Happy to be here and happy to be helping Ron and Irving and Emmeline on these park projects. And we originally started the project just conceptualizing and seeing what could occur within the park itself, and we looked at several. This project, just to reiterate, is considered all-inclusive. So there's inherent ADA improvements that need to occur out there. There's a item earlier about concrete and trip and fall hazards, that sort of thing. So there's things in the park that don't meet current codes. So the design plan brings the project into code compliance from a standpoint of ADA accessibility. But then it goes a step further, many steps further, with inclusive play. So the idea is that folks in mobility devices have access to play features that able-bodied users have. And in most playgrounds, you'll see a transfer station. So somebody in a mobility device has to transfer out of that mobility device and then work their way through a play structure and then be assisted back. Where with this design, it allows somebody to really wheel through the entire structure and experience play with their friends and family. It's really multi-generational, so you have exercise and play. Exercise is a big, in today's world, there's trends in parks and trends in recreation facilities and what community members are offered. And so outdoor exercise is really a big push for the last couple of years, and so this project will have that. Plus, and many of those features are ADA accessible as well. So it's a small park. It's about 13,000 square feet, but you're really packing a lot in there. Majority of the trees are being saved. There's, I think, 3 or 4 trees that are in pretty bad shape that would be removed, but the idea is to try to protect the existing canopy and cover. And so it's an exciting project. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions and comments from up here?
Yeah, so this was one of my boys' go-to parks.
Oh, with the diggers.
Uh-huh. In fact, they didn't even know that this was called Stearns Park. This is Digger Park. And so they just wanted me to plead, my now adult sons, wanted me to plead to make sure that the diggers would make the transition into the new design. It's just a small ask.
How about you just ship the diggers to her house? You throw them up in her yard, everybody wins.
No, I love this. It's a much-needed facelift that we need for this park. I think it'll get a lot more use than it does now, but just throw the diggers in there, please. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I guess Mr. Chuck, I guess I had a question. In these drawings, I see the ground. I was wondering if you could talk about the building materials that you're going to be using for the ground.
So are you referring to the play area fall zone or in general? So
It looks blue in the drawings.
Important place.
The ground.
So the idea here, there's always in parks over the years, sand and rubber have been used, and sand is problematic from, although there is play value to it, it's problematic from really a safety aspect where things can be hidden within sand that you wouldn't know are there until it's too late. It is not a real great material for attenuation of injury because it can be compacted. So the idea here in the city is that if a play area is renovated, that it goes to 100% rubber and you don't have sand out there. And the advantage of that is that it's all ADA accessible. And it's really, if you have budget, that's what cities are doing. The compromise is if you don't have budget, then you're looking at sand or wood fiber and rubber, but rubber is the preferred material. For the interior plaza space, it's concrete, so it would be, saw cut, scored concrete, gray concrete. Yeah. And then-
Concrete, so if the kids fall off, they fall on concrete?
Not within the play area, so
Okay.
the walkways are concrete, but in the play area itself, it's all rubber.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, can I get a, wait, is there?
Yes, so the motion would be to approve an agreement in a form approved by the city attorney for the playground equipment in the amount of $239,899.
I will move it.
A second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. We will move to council announcements. At this time, council members may also report on items not specifically described on the agenda that are of interest to the community, provided no action or discussion is taken, except to provide staff direction to report back or to place the item on a future agenda. All right, we'll start. Councilmember Hibbard.
Thank you, Mayor. Over this past month, I attended the Regional Military Affairs Committee on the Joint Forces Training Base. The most notable event last month was the Pacific Air Show, and if you live anywhere near the base, you were well aware of that. And for those of you that don't know, the planes that take off for the air show leave the base. They get to the beach in Seal Beach in 15 seconds and arrive in Huntington Beach 15 seconds after that. So I thought that was pretty cool that 30 seconds after they leave the base, they're in Huntington. I also attended the Los Alamitos Chamber of Commerce meeting at Madera's Steakhouse. Thank you, Art, for hosting us. And our very own Chief Claiborne spoke and provided an update on all the exciting progress that's been taking place at the police department. I attended a legislative update with an organization called OC Tax. And for the homeowners listening to this, you may want to subscribe to their newsletter since there's some legislation that's coming up and might possibly be on next year's ballot that could impact your wallet. So that's OC Tax is the organization. I also attended the Cypress Prayer Breakfast with members of the Cypress City Council and faith leaders from the community, both Cypress and Los Alamitos, including my own pastor, which was great to see. It was a beautiful event and really encouraged me to see how many people of faith are in our community. I also attended the Cypress State of the City event. It was the third year I attended that event, and it was just as lovely as last year. The city hosted their event outside on the lawn of their community center, which was decorated with twinkle lights and live music. Council members from nearby cities were in attendance, as well as the Cypress police officers and local firemen, who I promised to give a shout out to, who I met accidentally that evening. So Cypress PD and the firemen that I met that night, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just wanted to say that I attended the beautiful Food Finders Farm to Tableau event, which was also attended by Miss Noda. We had an amazing time just admiring all the festivities and the dancers and the tasting stations. It was just an amazing event. I was really taken away with that. I hosted a College Park North, which is where I reside in Los Alamitos, safety meeting at my home, and it was presented by Sergeant Kroc of the Los Alamitos Police Department. So I just wanted to give him a shout out as well to say thank you so much for taking time out of his schedule to come by my home and present a safety meeting for my neighbors. I also attended the celebration at the historical Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum to celebrate the 2023 State of the City of Yorba Linda. It was really amazing. They had it inside the historical, large ballroom, and they had an orchestra. It was just truly unbelievable. I also attended and volunteered at the Los Alamitos Community Foundation Beverage Garden at this weekend's very popular and well-attended trunk or treat celebration, which featured a costume contest, an adult pie eating contest, a spooky train ride, trick-or-treating for candy, toys in the trunks of vehicles, and so much more. As always, it was well orchestrated and arranged by Emmeline Noda, as well as her exceptional crew at the Los Alamitos Rec. Also, I attended the memorable Taste of La Salle event organized by the Los Alamitos Unified School District, which featured several incredible items for auction, local businesses, and not to mention a slew of attendees. And it was great because my youngest daughter is a soccer player, and so we had several auction items that were available, and we sold all but one item, so that was really impressive. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Hasselberg? Sure. First, the air show. I attended the welcome of the pilots at the base, which is always fun. They love staying there. It's quiet, and to be able to see the planes up close and personal, and then to experience our own private air show for the next 4 days. Saturday, I did attend the air show, and there's something about standing in the sand with the ocean in the background, looking at these amazing planes. One of the, I think it was the Canadian snowbirds, fly within 18 inches of each other. I don't even want to stand next to somebody 18 inches away, much less fly a plane, so that was quite impressive. I did work the Taste for La Salle. I have been given the title by our La Salle as the token politician, and I take that with pride, but it raises a tremendous amount of money for all the different boosters. A lot of the smaller sports or extracurricular activities that don't have the ability to raise a lot of money. As you know, years ago, the state took away all funding for any kind of extracurricular activities at the schools, so it left it to the parents to provide money for the bus transportations and uniforms and just everything, and it can be pricey even for something like water polo. And then I did attend the women's conference. I gotta say, Emmeline, this has been her dream baby for a number of years now, and to watch it double every year. I attended with the mayor, got to watch her rev up the crowd in the only way she knows how. And then we had Michelle Booz give a keynote as well. She's absolutely amazing. She's talented. She has no filter, so if you get offended by language, I'm sorry, but she brings it. It's just amazing. The women there were just beyond blown away about every single detail was covered, from the goodie bags to the decorations. The breakout sessions were relevant and timely. I've been to a lot of women's conferences locally, statewide, and nationwide, and this is in the top one. So congratulations, Emmeline, because this is going to be a model for cities to follow. So it was pretty amazing, and I know you're doing that for yourself. It's kind of like preaching to yourself. And thank you for inviting us to be in the audience to be able to learn from that as well. I did attend Trunk or Treat with 5,000 of my closest friends. I've never seen that so crowded in my life. It was wall to wall people. Everybody was just complimentary of everything that the city has been doing to make quality of life a priority here. Just heard nothing but compliments about just the city and the direction it's moving in. And I was very proud to be able to represent everything we've been doing there. And then, Mayor, also, I would like to close tonight in memory of Rob Lowenberg. He was the executive director at WeCare. I can read. He passed away on September 23rd. He has been with WeCare for 16 years. He had many passions, including helping people and families struggling to stay in their homes and dealing with food insufficiency. Rob's passing is a terrible loss to the WeCare and to the entire fabric of the Orange County community. Focus on helping those in need. In honor of Rob's commitment and passion for this work, the Board of Directors of WeCare has established a memorial fund in Rob's honor. The monies raised will be used to support the mission of WeCare and creating the community where its members can come get nourished, housed, and self-reliant. They specifically work with our local community to make sure that our residents don't become homeless if they need a bus pass. They have a small food pantry there that it's like fishes and loaves. It just keeps getting restocked and they keep giving out. They're a small but mighty nonprofit. They help the foundation with the fireworks sales and they stepped up their game. And I know Rob's going to be sorely, sorely missed. And they have vowed to continue on his passion with that. So I'd like to close in his memory, please. And that's it.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda?
Thank you. I also attended the Saturday event at the air show and just want to thank everyone involved in that. That's a fantastic event. I'd like to thank the Chamber and Maderas for hosting the chief. It was a great talk. And I don't know if they normally serve breakfast there, but the breakfast was phenomenal. So
No, I
if
don't,
you have a
just
chance
for
to,
our meetings.
Oh,
just
okay.
meetings.
Well, I'm sure the food is phenomenal. So if you have a chance to eat at Maderas, it was very good. I attended my OC sanitation meetings, and for those of you, if you want to attend, this Friday at 11, from 11 to 1, the OC San is having an event called the State of the OC Sanitation. It's a luncheon, and then afterwards they're giving a tour. So if you want to check out the facility in Fountain Valley, it's something you might want to put on your calendar. And then finally, the mayor and I, along with Mr. Simmons and the chief, attended our quarterly meeting with the district. And, you know, it's just nice to know that the school district and the city has a good working relationship and that we're always working on things to make it better. So that's something good to know. Missed the trunk or treat this year, but I'll be there next year, so.
Somebody write that down.
In the mayor's shirt.
In the mayor's shirt. All righty, so I was our voting delegate for the League of California Cities, so you might it might have been the wrong name. So you might want to check that, because I did go out to represent us to vote, and then they had no items to vote on, which is, you know, I guess that's the way it works. But I was able to meet with Townsend, who we will be entering into right, have we done that? Is that official yet? So they will be helping Emmeline in what her official title here, Intergovernmental Affairs. Sorry, it's late, I'm a little sleepy. I'm gonna get through it though, it's gonna be all right. But I was able to meet with them, and we are all very excited for what they will help us to achieve come next year with our grant writing and et cetera. I was able to welcome everyone to Los Alamitos at the air show on Thursday. And on Friday, I got to go in person, and some of our Australian counterparts tried to kidnap me. They said, I need to go over there and see how their show goes. I'm not going. Next is I went to the Youth Center Crystal Hearts Ball to honor our very own Emmeline and Ron. It was a beautiful event, and it was just so nice. I'm always a fan. Like, I can tell my staff how wonderful they are, but it's very impactful when other people recognize how fantastic my staff is. And then y'all saw that we did the business spotlight for Flags with the Flair. It really is it's a house. And there's something in every single room. The living room has a genre, the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, and then it's the most beautiful little garden. It's so sweet. And then she has a hair salon behind that too. So highly recommend, at least go check it out. She's got a little bit of everything. I bought a magnet. It says, not my circus, not my monkeys. I felt it was appropriate. I also went to the State of the District, which is always very well put on. I swear Dr. Pulver missed his calling. He should have been a pastor, because he just gets up with his mic, he works the room, and it's also very encouraging to see how fantastic our district is still doing. And I echo the sentiment of the collaboration that we now have between our city and our school district. I've been in a lot of different other cities, and I've sat at a lot of different other tables, and people just don't have it. I also was at the Chamber Network breakfast and got a lot of compliments about what the chief was able to share. He gave a quick rundown on how
swimmingly our PD is doing. So congratulations on that, sir, and thank you. And so this Elevate Women's Conference, and not even because I speak at it, because I'm convinced Emmeline does that so that she can just make me talk. But last year, there were, what, 40 some odd ladies? This year, we were closer to 80. And when I tell you the look around the room, the energy in the room, it's such a necessary thing. The fact that you were able to provide something of such substance, of such value and worth, thank you. Because those women, they were, it wasn't like, okay, yeah, show up and we're just gonna sit and, you know, people are on their phones and they're playing Candy Crush or whatever. People were literally completely engaged the whole time in every single session. Congratulations to you. I cannot wait to see what next year looks like. My own Elevate Women's Conference. I went to my mosquito and vectors meeting. I gave you guys a highlight because Miss Laura came, and thank you, Miss Laura, for coming and explaining to us again how to protect ourselves as much as we can. And then the trunk or treat, I do not win the trunk because I don't like decorating my car. My car speaks for itself. But I'm undefeated with candy. I was everyone's favorite table because I give candy to adults and I let the children take their own. Very well done. Everyone had an exceptional time once I was able to get in. I didn't actually drop my name, except they didn't want to let me in the beginning. They were like, oh no, you're too late. I was like, that's cool, go tell them you ain't letting the mayor in. Hold on, So that touched my heart and made me giggle. But overall, spectacular events come out of this small but mighty city of Los Alamitos. Y'all make me proud every day. And on that note, we will adjourn in memory of Rob Lowenberg, the executive director of We Care, at 8:55. We're done. Y'all can go. 8:55. Where's your hammer? It's over.